All right, let's get to the big question here because everybody talks about it all the time. Jim Harbaugh, why doesn't he get fired? He should get fired. They're not a championship contender. I can think of two reasons why he's not going to get fired, I don't believe, but Justin, we'll hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, reason number one, I think, is probably what you're thinking is we're in a pandemic and the year is shortened and nobody is going to – I don't think there are many athletic departments in the entire country that are making a decision like that to let go of their head coaches. And one big thing is that the athletic department's already hurting for money. So to just hand Jim Harbaugh $10 million and say, hey, we're going to pay you to not coach next year and then go out with a coaching search, I just don't think it's going to happen for that athletic director. The other part too is Jim Harbaugh is very comfortable where he's at. He doesn't seem to be having much pressure on him. And so I think a lot of people are saying, okay, well, even if you were to let Jim Harbaugh go after this season, who are you going to get? Right. That's the big question. Who are you going to get? But at some point, you can't just say, all right, who are you going to get? Somebody has to be better than where Michigan is at right now. And I said this on our podcast today, there's a lot of fans out there, though, that are very, very scared for a Rich Rod and Brady Hoke era to come back. That was almost a decade there of Michigan being at the depths of despair and not being anywhere near a 9-4, 9-3, 10-3 team. And so a lot of this fan base, although that they're very, dissatisfied with Jim Harbaugh, they'd rather have where they're at right now than to be going 3-9 or 5-7, 7-5, 6-6. So I think it's split. But after Saturday, there weren't too many people that were backing up Jim Harbaugh. So when you go to when you are 3-3 versus Michigan State, and two of those losses are against bad Michigan State teams, and the other one is the fumbled punt return that you should have won. You should be 6-0 versus Michigan State, and then when you're 0-6 against Ohio State as well, this fan base is going to turn on you quick. And so if his name wasn't Jim Harbaugh, he probably would have been gone after last season. But I still think that he coaches through the 2021 season because I don't know. There's the financial situation is not good. The athletic director is kind of backed into a corner here. How do you tell your employees of your athletic department, I'm going to, pay this guy $10 million not to work here, but you guys all still have to take pay cuts as well. But that's also giving you, there's now, if you keep him on for the 21 season, you're setting yourself back in a rebuild as well. You're 1 year behind in a rebuild. And then it's going to be, if you're still at 9-4, 5, 8-4, 8-5, whatever you want to say, you're making this fan base more dissatisfied, and you're 1 year behind of trying to find that new guy that's going to be the one to bring you back to a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, your point about Brady Hoke and Rich Rod are well taken, because if this was 15 years ago, I might be inclined to say it's Michigan. Just go out and hire any coach who's somewhat capable. You'll be fine. You can recruit. Maybe you won't win national championships, but you'll go 9-3. You'll be fine. You'll be in contention for the Big Ten championship. But that era proved from 2008 up until Harbaugh, when he stepped on campus and turned things around to 10-3 in 2015. So for 7-8 seasons, pretty much proved out that the Iowas and Penn States and Wisconsins and so forth, Michigan State at the time, are very well equipped to fill that void behind Ohio State. So Michigan just can't trot anybody out there and win games in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's a fear of many Michigan fans right now it's not lost. That is pretty recent memory of the Rich Rod and the Brady Hoke era. And I think the problem, though, there is, all right, when Jim Harbaugh came onto campus in Ann Arbor in 2015, and he brought this team back pretty quickly, right? They were still in a top 10 team at the end of his first year, as well as going into 2016. They were, JT was short from being in the Big Ten championship and probably looking at the college football playoff. So they were at the height that Michigan hadn't been since Lloyd Carr was there. Now you look at it 4 years later from 2016, where they were at that height, he's taken a big step backwards. So for Michigan fans, for a lot of the media and everyone in Ann Arbor, it's You haven't made those steps to get back to that 2016 point. And honestly, on the sideline, he looks like a shell of that man. He does not have the fire of San Francisco 49er Jim Harbaugh throwing his hat and everything. And he did the same thing in his first couple years at Michigan. And it looks like he's just lost that. And I don't know if it's his age or if it's just getting beat down by Ohio State every single year, what has to do with that. But he has not taken the steps to make this program better each year. They've essentially taken steps backwards each year ever since 2016. So that's where Michigan fans are saying, all right, maybe the Harbaugh experiment is over. I don't even like to call it an experiment. It was a great hire at the time. It was probably the best hire in terms of Michigan in the history of the program, but it just hasn't worked out. And part of that is the expectations. You can't give anybody expectations to turn a program from 5-7 to a national championship in the first year or two. But that was the expectation because Jim Harbaugh was such a big name. Well, now I think that, the athletic director and the department needs to go out and let's maybe not look at the biggest name out there, but who do you think can turn this program around and get it a mental attitude that is, we are going to play with our chip on our shoulder and go out and fight for this program. And it doesn't have to be a Michigan man. There's all this stuff talk in Ann Arbor about it. We need a Michigan man for the Michigan tradition to restore the Bo Schembechler days. That was a long time ago. Michigan hasn't been anywhere near that. And, even Lloyd Carr, he wasn't dominating the way that Bo Schembechler was. He had a good run for sure, but he wasn't anywhere near Bo Schembechler. And so the Michigan tradition, I think, is lost in 2020, and people are sick of hearing about that. So I think they have to go get a young offensive-minded guy to come in, just like everyone else has. The Lincoln Rileys, the Cliff Kingsburys. In my opinion, Joe Brady better be on the top of that list. And I don't know if he even wants to come back from the NFL now, but I think that you've got to go out and get somebody who can change the culture here, because right now it's a culture of complacency. There's no chip on the shoulder. There's no fight. And the Michigan fan base is ready for a change.
There's no question about everything you just said. Makes total sense and is well taken, certainly. Jim Harbaugh might just be beaten down by he came in with fire and passion, up the recruiting, up the football program, the personnel. They started to win. And then, they just hit that 2016 made that spot of the ball in overtime or just prior to overtime at Ohio State I don't want to give a death knell to Michigan fans, but you might be looking back on that 10 years from now. Certainly people are right now as like the turning point in the program where things could have gone a completely different way. But it's an unfortunate situation, but it can't be an excuse because you were still a good team with a good program and with the opportunity, despite a possibly bad call, to move on from there and continue the next season, continue to fight. But it's just, I don't know what's been lost there. If he's just banging his head against the wall thinking, I've done everything I could. I thought I had, I got the hot shot from Ole Miss, Shea Patterson. I've changed the offense. I've done this, I've done that. And they are just recruiting out of their minds at Ohio State. And I can't keep up with it. I don't know what else to do. And it could be understandable from a personal frustration standpoint for Jim Harbaugh. But in terms of the Michigan side of things, I think 2021 is going to be it for him. A lot of coaches across the country that are maybe delayed a year because of the COVID situation here in 2020. Very interesting. Justin Rowe, Stadium and Main podcast. So you get a whole lot more of what you get here if you head on over and check out his podcast and go to Justin Rowe 92 on Twitter and go from there. Justin, we appreciate you stopping by to break down Michigan, and it should be an interesting season, if not a successful one. We'll see.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully we have some better things to talk about moving forward here in Ann Arbor.